Hello everyone, I'm Kavi Rajesh and I'm from FTC Team Taro. Basically, this is going to be the first episode in web design, front end. Sorry, there's no back end here. In today's video, I'm just going to be talking some basic concepts. It's not going to be a tutorial video. Um, those will be posted in later episodes, so you can stay tuned for 2, 3, and 4. Those are all tutorials on making um, a header, the body of your paragraphs using divs, um, contact pages, validating your contact pages. So please stay tuned for that and go watch those other videos on our page. For now, we're gonna just be jumping in to what web pages and web browsers and web servers are before we really explore more. So some basic vocabulary. Touched on this in the intro, but a web page is a document that can be displayed in a web browser such as Chrome, Safari, and other um, engines that you see. A website is a collection of web pages that are grouped together in various ways. So, for example, Apple.com, they have MacBook Pro part of the website. They also have the iPad page of their website, and all of these grouped together is what makes Apple's website really Apple.com. Web servers are computers that host a website on the internet. Um, these are really just a piece of hardware that is able to store your website and bring it alive on the internet. Otherwise, you'll just have a meaningless website sitting in there. Alright, a search engine is a web service that helps you find other web pages such as Google or Bing. Other search engines that you might have heard of includes includes Yahoo. That's also a pretty popular search engine. Alright, let's relate all of these to an analogy. The web servers that I've talked about are sort of like a library, and the library has multiple sections in it, like when you walk into a library, and each of those sections, like for example, science, the different language sections that they have, the quiet spaces, they're all websites. And all these books that you see in each section are sort of like a web page. For example, when you walk into the science section, you might see the chemistry of life as one book. And you also might see um, cell reproduction as another book. And those books is really what makes the science section the science section. Without having natural selection, it's still not complete science. That's what makes the web pages so important to the website. Without all of your web pages you will not have a proper website. The search index that you see in the libraries on the computer is sort of like the search engine. What does that mean? When you walk into the library and you see the search catalog, because you are searching for a specific book in its section, that is what you are searching for on the internet. All right, let's continue. So what's the difference between front end and back end? You've probably heard of these two words before, and if you haven't, that's all right. But front end is basically what you see on the website. It's the client side. So for example, you sitting at youtube.com is a great client site. It's you really cannot see what's going on behind it, but you can see all the videos that you're watching because you're watching them. It forms the base of what users can touch and experience in the web browsers. So you can see when you go to YouTube all of these different amazing videos that you want to watch. Those are all formed through the front end. The front end is usually programmed using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, and we'll come through on what those do later. Okay, back end. Back end is what comes behind the scenes. So when you have YouTube, a lot of people do confuse this as coding what is on the front end as a back end. It's not. That's really just coding front end. But when you're coding the back end, that's completely something different. You're coding the brains of the website. You're coding what really what really is able to bring that video to you, and you're coding, especially if you are a YouTube influencer, then how you post your videos is entirely backend. That is entirely something the backend is controlling. It's helping you post your videos. So generally, a web server, it's a web server that communicates with a database to serve requests that the front end presents. That's pretty much what I just said. Last one about YouTube. When you want to post something, it's usually the back end really breathing hard there. When you want to post a video. Sorry, I'm quite sick. Anyway, backend is usually coded with Ruby, Python, Java, and etc. We will not be going through backend much on this thread, but we will be definitely going through a lot of front end later. Alright, HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. A lot of people tend to confuse HTML and JavaScript. When I first started, I think I really confused what JavaScript was with difference to HTML. So HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language, and it's really used to create the actual content of the page. So like I said with Apple, when you go there, all the information and all the paragraphs that they have typed up and their amazing little one-liner headers, those are all HTML. That is all coded through HTML. It dictates content and structure of the web page, and it usually consists of tags surrounding content. So I think I wrote an example right there. It's sign, tag, sign, contact, sign, tag, sign. The first tag that you see is called a start tag, and the third tag that you see is not third tag. The second tag that you see is called the end tag. And usually this will be replaced with something like with an HTML element, and that can be H1. H1, just for reference, stands for heading 1. It's usually what people use to give to it's the biggest heading that you can select. But we will go more in depth on what headings are and how to style that. If I'm not making sense right now, I will definitely make sense in episode number 2, where I will be starting exactly how to start an HTML file and how to get your header and how to start a body and the difference between all of those H1, H2, H3s that you might have seen in all the other videos, so please stay tuned for that. So moving on to CSS. CSS stands for Cascading Style Sheets. I love CSS so much, mainly because you probably heard of this, but sorry, before I jump into that, what does CSS do? It modifies the design and the display of HTML elements. So for example, if you wanted to not have the black default color of your header, you can instead replace that with green using CSS. And you can be like, hey, I want this in green color. And you can just program it to be in green. Like I said before, designs, colors, fonts, and layouts. It also helps you adapt your display across different kinds of platforms. When I mean by different kinds of platforms, I mean by different devices. So for example, when you're coding your website on your laptop, when you open it up on your phone, or you try to minimize your window, it will look completely different. And that's alright. It's just mainly CSS that is controlling that. Alright, down below I just put down some simple vocabulary and an example of what a CSS might look like. So like selectors, declarations, declaration blocks, and properties, values, all of those are right there, just if you want to look at it. Alright, in CSS, there's two different things. There's an external CSS file and an internal CSS file. Internal CSS files, you can write it inside your HTML file, but here's the thing. When you're going to external CSS files, those external CSS files applies to every single file of your website. So it applies to every single web page. So for example, in your external CSS file, you said button is black, then every single button that you use in that website will be black, because you have just one file that styles a whole website. And those files are generally used if you really are just using one color that's not black in all of your website. If your whole website is just pink in color, in font color, then yeah, definitely you would not be calling that in every single file that you create. That would just be in one external file. You can have CSS in one internal file. You can have it inside your HTML, in one of your HTML files when you code, just at the top, a little blurb there. Those are usually used to pertain to that file exactly. Internal style sheets do not are different than external. They only apply to the file that you are writing them in. And a quick note, you can write CSS in an HTML file, but you can never write HTML in a CSS file. That is not right. Alright, JavaScript. What is JavaScript? You probably heard of JavaScript a lot. It's very commonly used. It goes hand in hand with HTML and CSS, and it's used in validating contact forms. So, for example, when you go to any website and asks for your email, you are going to have to obviously code for the fact that the user has to enter an email that has @.com or like any @.com, Gmail, Yahoo. You don't have to specify Gmail or Yahoo because they might use a different thing, but you do have to check if their email is a valid email, and that's completely through JavaScript. All right. So the next one is, it just goes hand in hand in HTML and CSS and allows you to take ordinary web elements and make them more interactive. So it's basically completely an object-oriented programming language. So some applications and resources that you can use to help you get started on the front end of your website and back end. You can use Atom, Sublime Text, Brackets, and Visual Studio Codes. These are all just code editors that you will be able to download. I think they're usually for Mac and Windows. You can look into each one that you want, whichever one's most comfortable for you. These are the most popularly used ones. Personally, I use Brackets. I just find the interface very nice. I also used to use Sublime Text and Atom in the past, but I got a new computer and I just didn't feel like downloading them, so I just downloaded Brackets. Thank you so much for watching this video. I will explain more interactive videos and tutorials on how to really program a working website, the front end part, later inside my thread. So I'm pretty sure episode 2 will definitely be something with headers and how to create a header and how to really what's up with all these tags and content references and what is all this that I might have explained when I was touching up on HTML. Please support us. Please visit our GoFundMe link. I'm just linking it here. And also follow us on Instagram at FTC Team Taro. And also follow me on Instagram, Kavi22. This is a very shameless promo. But thank you so much for watching. And please stay tuned for the next few videos I'll be posting about this thread. Thank you.